Hello and welcome to everyone who's joining, connecting to audio. We're so glad to have you here. We have some familiar faces, some new ones. We're really excited to start to have this session, Purpose and a Paycheck, Careers in Impact Incubation. And to get started soon, we're going to launch a poll so we can get to know everyone in the room a little bit better as we are waiting for everyone to join. So let us know which of the following best describes why you're joining today's session. And as some housekeeping, you will get a copy of this recording, and please put your questions in that Q&A section so we can keep track of them. Welcome, Anthony. We're glad you're here. And we'll just get started in a moment. It's interesting to see these results and what people are curious about and what brought you to this webinar today. So thank you to everyone who is joining. And I'll ask our other guests to come on off camera, and we can go ahead and get started. So my name is Jennifer Bongora, and I am Nexford University's Director of Career Innovation. Nexford, as many of you may know, or maybe it's your first time hearing about us, we are a licensed and accredited university based in Washington, D.C., serving learners around the world. And our mission is to build socioeconomic mobility through affordable and high quality education at scale that is 100% online. And we are really thrilled to be here today with Pollinate Impact, Growth Africa, and Inspire Incubator to talk about building a career in impact incubators. And I think we just really have a group of experts here in the room. So I will turn it over to Ariel to introduce herself and Pollinate Impact, and we'll move through the room. Thank you so much.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Jennifer. And thanks to everyone for joining this session. My name is Ariel Molino. I'm the Chief Convener with Pollinate Impact, and I'm joining today from Nairobi, Kenya. Pollinate Impact is a member-led network of impact incubators and accelerators across the global south, so across Africa, South Asia, and Southeast Asia. And we empower and resource impact incubators. Sorry, I hope those kids outside aren't too loud. We empower and resource impact incubators to share resources, encourage the co-creation of new tools, and really help them amplify the work that they do to solve the biggest problems facing people on the planet through supporting impact entrepreneurs. So we go where our members lead, and we support them to co-create some of these solutions to some of these biggest challenges. And one of the biggest challenges that we've heard from so many incubators is around their talent needs and having the skills in-house that they need to deliver the support that's so needed for the entrepreneurs that they're supporting. So we are really excited to partner with Nexford on this, and really excited to dig into this conversation and hear some of these insights, and really looking forward to the conversation. So I'll hand it back to Jennifer.
Thank you so much. And I will send it over to Johnny. Could you tell us a little bit more about who you are and growth?
Yeah, hi everyone. My name is Johnny. I'm also located in Nairobi and have been for around 25 years. I'm an entrepreneur by heart. I started out as an entrepreneur back in the 90s here in Nairobi and actually across the continent, which led me to eventually set up Growth Africa back in 2002. So that's close to 22 years ago now. And for those 22 years, we have essentially been trying to figure out what does entrepreneurs need? What does startups and aspiring businesses in their early stages, what is it that they need in terms of building their capacity, in terms of accessing funding and accessing resources and other things. And that's essentially what we have been doing for the last 2+ decades. And that is what we're doing today. We run an accelerator across the 6 countries that we are in. We have permanent presence in Kenya, Uganda, Ethiopia, Malawi, Zambia, and Ghana. Then we run a number of projects and programs in other countries as well on behalf of clients. So there's a number of client incubators and accelerator programs that we run. We also do capacity building for emerging ESOs, so other accelerators and incubators that are just starting up, teaching them what we've learned over the years, and helping them out in terms of not kind of going through all of the pitfalls and the dark alleys that we've been through in our journey. And we're a proud member of Pollinate Impact, big believer in kind of coming together and sharing resources and learning from each other. So I'll leave it at that for now. Thanks, Jennifer.
That's wonderful. Thank you so much. And yeah, we have so many exciting folks in the room, and thank you to everyone who's joining. Pascal, I'd love to turn it over to you. Could you tell us a little bit about who you are, what you do, and yeah, I'll leave it at that.
Okay, hello everyone. So my name is Pascal Fodum. I'm a lawyer by profession and program manager at Inspire Hub, Abuja Technology Village. The Abuja Technology Village is one of the establishments of the Federal Capital Territory here in Abuja to encourage and build up the tech ecosystem here in Abuja and environs. So Inspire is an incubation hub, more like a subsidiary of the Abuja Technology Village. So for the past, since 2013, 2014, Inspire has been grooming startups, mentoring them, giving them access to resources and every support they need to build their business to global level. Till date, we've trained and graduated close to 200 portfolio startups. In fact, we are having one of our demo day, whereby we present our top startups this coming Friday. I think I shared the flyer some minutes ago with Jennifer. So we're of course hoping to have some of the attendees here come see our top startups on Friday. So I'm also currently an MBA student. So right from outset, I've been interested in the startup ecosystem and the tech ecosystem. I've worked with a couple of VCs and some startup hubs too. I've mentored on a couple of platforms, including VC for Africa, Techstar, Startup Bootcamp, and the likes. We have worked with startups. So I brought in that experience to help the startups we have in our portfolio here in Inspire. Thank you.
That's great. Thank you so much, Pascal, Ariel, Johnny, for your introductions. I will share again the results from the poll for those of you who are able to participate, because we asked, why you're joining this session today. The options here, we have 55% of folks have never heard of impact incubation and wanted to learn more. We have 9% who says, I have no idea what I want to do after graduation, so I'm here to listen. And then 36% saying, I'm looking for meaning in my career, and I hope to get some practical advice from this session. We will deliver on that, the practical advice, the listening, the sharing. So thank you for voting for those who were able. And thank you to our guests here for sharing more about your journey and what's brought you into the impact incubation space, which I think is a lot new for a lot of people to hear about and also to build a career in. So today, during the webinar, we'll talk about understanding the power of impact incubators, how to navigate the incubator ecosystem, and then how to enter the field. So we have some questions for our panelists. We're going to hear from their first-hand experience and advice. So please, we try to make this as interactive as possible, and that really comes from your engagement through your questions. So if you're curious about something, I'm sure somebody else is as well. So please use that Q&A And again, you will receive a copy of this as a recording. We always get that question, and any resources that are mentioned in the follow-up email. So Pascal said he has a demo day coming up on Friday. We'll be sure to include that in the follow-up. So starting with the understanding the power of impact incubators. Johnny, maybe we can start with you. Could you really tell us, maybe walk us through a little bit the history of impact incubators and this field? Like, where did it start, and what does it really mean in practice to be an impact incubator?
Oh, there we go. Sorry, having issues with unmuting myself. So I think, I mean, incubation and acceleration obviously has started way back with your Silicon Valleys in the 60s and 70s, and seeing how technology was impacting the world through their innovations and inventions. And I think from that, I'm not sure if it was Ashoka who kind of was the first ones to coin impact investing as a term back in the 90s. Whomever it was, the whole logic at that point was to kind of say, okay, that's great that money and capital and innovation and entrepreneurship can have an impact in areas of technology and other areas of business. But what if we could make businesses and entrepreneurships and startups as agents for positive change in our societies? And that was really how it started. And I think money obviously isn't the end all and be all of everything. It is often the core motivator and kind of what drives a lot of these things. But through the years, and this was how we also got active in that area, and in this area in the early noughts, was really that the whole quote unquote investment readiness of entrepreneurs, kind of bringing startups and early stage businesses to a level where investors are interested in them. That bridge that gap wasn't really bridged in many circumstances, and where you could say in a Western context, there may be a lot of support mechanisms, there may be a lot of infrastructure, and there may be a lot of knowledge that's already present with entrepreneurs and kind of the stakeholders around the entrepreneurs. That certainly isn't certainly isn't the case if you're looking at areas outside of kind of developed countries. And obviously, when we're talking impact, the larger part of the impact is something that we would experience in countries across Africa and across the rest of the developing markets. And there simply the infrastructure isn't present. So in many ways, incubation and acceleration in the context of impact and positive impact really serves the same purpose as acceleration and incubation in general, and that is to speed up the access to the necessary resources, to speed up the maturing of businesses that are kind of going from the idea stage all the way to kind of maturing and becoming quote unquote investment ready. So with very few words, that's how I would define impact incubation.
That's great. I'm curious, Pascal, could you walk us through what it looks like? Like, say I have do I have an idea? Do I walk to the Abuja Inspire Village or Inspire Abuja Village space? What happens next? Or is that what happens? Do I come to you? I have an, very beginning stage. Can you walk us through what it looks like in practice of how you support entrepreneurs on a day-to-day basis?
Okay, so thank you very much for the question, Jennifer. Dr. Jennifer, thank you very much. So basically the Inspire Incubator, Abuja Technology Village, supports tech-enabled startups. So we focus on tech-enabled startups because we believe they are able to scale faster and impact our lives. So when a startup comes, we run them through the criteria that we've set out for admitting startup to undergo our ideation or incubation program. Once they're able to meet our criteria, it doesn't matter their location. Right now, we have startups across Africa, Ghana, Zambia, Zimbabwe. So basically, we've brought our training online so that other African countries can benefit from the training and the mentorship we are bringing. So once we run them through the criteria and they're able to scale through the laid down requirements that we need our startups to meet, we admit them, we onboard them on the platform, and they go through the training over the core training takes 5 weeks. And within that 5 weeks, we attach them to mentors that will handhold them. So apart from the general training, they have some dial-in meetings within the week, an hour per week, whereby they share their personal challenges regarding their business with the mentors. The mentors will guide them through, and also the whole training takes them from the idea stage to a stage where they will be able to produce their MVP at the end of that training. That's the whole aim. So at the end of the 5 weeks training, we're expecting them to at least come up with the MVP of the product that they are able to pitch to investors, which is what we are doing now. So those that are able to join through the training, get the mentorship, the resources, we share with them a lot of resources, some partnership deals that we've gotten from some partners that we have, including HubSpot and all that they support startup with discount and a lot of that. So we share it with them, they benefit from it, they quickly launch their product and they keep iterating. So after their demo day, where investors pick and invest in the startups they are interested in, we still keep supporting them, giving them training from time to time, depending on their needs. We still share opportunities with them regarding areas they need support, funding opportunities, grant opportunities, and we refer them to the right connection where the need arises. So basically, we support them over the let's say over the duration of 6 to 1 year until they're able to start functioning on their own, and they do not need maybe our services anymore. They can scale up maybe to an accelerator like Y Combinator and the likes. So that's the process of how we work with startups when they approach to us.
And may I ask, and well, John, I mean, Pascal, since you're off mute, so what does that look like? Are people paying for your services? Do you take a percentage of the company? Is your organization grant funded? So this is free? What does that look like? And maybe it's different among impact incubators, but for yours specifically.
Okay, for ours, all of our services are free at this stage for the incubation stage. Although from next year, we are planning to scale up our impact to start accelerating startups, whereby we start investing in them to take a percentage of equity and we lead them to investors and the likes. But for now, we are only doing incubation, whereby we give them the training, invite investors to pick the ones they want to invest in. But from next year, we are scaling up to start doing that too.
Wow, that's amazing. Johnny, how about for you all? And could you please unpack a little bit what it looks like for Growth Africa? Are you investing in impact incubators in different countries, or are you what is it? Are you a mother hub among incubators?
I wouldn't say we're mother hub. We've kind of essentially just started our practice this year of building capacity amongst other entrepreneur support organizations, accelerators, and incubators. And we're certainly not at the stage where we would invest in them for ourselves. So it looks a little bit different than what Pascal outlined. It's broadly regarded as best practice to charge for any services in the incubation and acceleration continuum, simply because it fosters a kind of having the hand on the hot plate, so to speak, that once you've actually parted with even a symbolic amount, then you tend to take these services in most areas. So we do charge for our core services, and our core services are targeted at businesses that are already kind of at the stage where they have recurring revenue. So we charge between $500 and $1,000 for participation. But again, this is for services that would, under normal circumstances, be valued at somewhere between $10,000 and $20,000. So it's still relatively symbolic. Certainly not covering all the expenses. We have in the past experimented both with revenue share, profit share, success fees, and equity. The problem for incubators and accelerators in an African context to take equity is that there are very, very few kind of liquidity events that has occurred in the market. So there are very few exits that have occurred, which then means you will sit with, and we still sit with around 50 positions in startups across the continent that are, I mean, we can't use those to pay rent. We can't use those to pay salaries. So it's not necessarily a very sustainable way to fund yourself. Paying cash seems to be much more a straight transaction between you and the entrepreneur. But we are, as almost everyone is, very dependent on grants, on sponsorships, and on donations.
Okay. That's great to know. Thank you both for giving us this insight into, what this impact incubator space looks like. Pascal, I really appreciate that detailed overview you gave of what it looks like from someone coming in to potentially exiting your organization after 6 months or a year. So we'd love to move into a little bit of how to navigate the incubator ecosystem. For this session, we're thinking about maybe our attendees are wanting to actually work for a company like Growth Africa, or work with you, Pascal, as a colleague. In addition to, I think we're getting, of course, great insight onto if people have budding business ideas and want to enter as a business. But what does it mean for you all to have this career and impact incubation? And could you talk a little bit about the jobs that people should even be looking for, maybe specific job titles? Pascal, you're a program manager, but how did you, well, Johnny, you created your job because you're the CEO. Pascal, how did you find your job? What were you looking for? And what can all of us be on the lookout if we want to work for an impact incubator? Johnny, I'll start with you. And I see there's an opening at Growth Africa, if you want to reference that, if it actually is active. But yes, could you tell us?
It very much is active. And there are, over the next 2 months, I think we're putting up another 15 or 18 positions. We're launching a couple of big programs early next year. And I think one of the reasons that Ariel insisted that I should be in this session was that I always complain about access to talent. We are always in need of talent. I'd say, without kind of overwhelming participants in terms of all of the options that are out there, I think what is important for us is really an interest and a passion for entrepreneurship, and understanding that entrepreneurship is not just about money. It is really about fulfilling and driving a mission, a deeper purpose. And I think one of the things that we tell all of our entrepreneurs, even though we don't necessarily promote ourselves as an impact organization, certainly at the core of our philosophy and how we train and support and build capacity with our entrepreneurs, is really kind of getting at the root of what is your passion, what is your purpose as an individual, and how does that actually translate into your entrepreneurship. And I think the same needs to be the case for the colleagues in our offices. So I think that comes first, and quite frankly, when we look at the colleagues that we've had through the years, some of the best colleagues that we've had have been anthropologists, zoologists, geologists, nothing to do with business. I think the ability to acquire new knowledge, to kind of absorb information and structure it in a way that is not just kind of tit for tat, but are you having a tactical or strategic mindset, is perhaps even more important than knowing business and knowing all the right terms from your MBA class. Obviously, it doesn't hurt to have an MBA, but I think all the other things are even more important. I say if you're starting out, your career, if you're a university leaver, this is across the board, and this is perhaps just a reflection of how old I am. Be patient. Be patient. You're not going to be CEO tomorrow. You're not going to knock me off my post just in a few weeks. It will take a while, and building up experience is really important. Listening to colleagues who've been around for a longer time and understanding what's going on is very important. I don't want to say know your place, but there is an element to kind of being humble enough to learn from everyone around you, and still being persistent enough to kind of let your ideas be heard. So I think, I mean, I'd say in terms of overall skills, structure, I love when people, they come in and they have a plan, they have a structure around how they think, how they communicate, and I think those are also skills that are much more needed also for entrepreneurs, quite frankly, because often entrepreneurs are idea people. They have ideas that are shooting off in all sorts of directions, and one of your key roles in an incubator or accelerator is to help the entrepreneur kind of focus and follow through on certain things. And if you have that kind of systemic approach to things and that focus and that discipline, operational discipline, then you can help the entrepreneurs kind of gain some of that. So I think those are perhaps the most important things that I would say that you need to have as someone who wants to get into the industry.
That's wonderful. I find it fascinating now. I think we have at least, it's 4 generations working in the workplace, right? We have Gen Z, we have millennials, Gen X, some boomers who are still, and of course, in the context of Africa, where much of our population resides, but we have learners globally at Nexford. I think I continue to think in this next 10 years, the learning that's happening between people who are, higher up if you're in hierarchical, but are just being open, like you said, to learning from everyone around you in all directions is critical to the success of any organization. We see that at Nexford, and hear it from a lot of people. And I hope everyone who's attending is soaking up this insight from Johnny, about the importance of the education and skills that you need, but really what I'm hearing you say is the power skills, as we call them now, and your ability to interact with other people, be curious, have that humility and growth mindset that we know are so important. Pascal, how about you? You've been with Inspire Abuja Village for, it looks like a couple of years now. What did it look like? How did you find your role? What were you looking for? Did you know specifically you wanted a career in impact incubation, or did it sort of just happen? Could you share a little bit more about that?
Okay, thank you, Dr. Jennifer. So I would like to say, perhaps I didn't really set out to be in the impact incubation space. Right after school, I think I was looking for opportunity within the VC space, right? But then I've been volunteering in impact, even over the course of 4 to 5 years while I was in school and then after school. So I've more or less been in the impact space, working with nonprofits and all the like. So I was able to gather some necessary skills to work within the space. I think that was what gave me a leverage. Fine, I was looking to break into the VC right after school. It was a little bit challenging to break into the VC, but then I was able to get into the angel investing space. I started working within angel investing. So that more or less made it easier for me to gain enough knowledge working with startups that are within the angel investment group, organizing pitch events for them, and a lot of other activities we had for them, communicating with investors within the network and all. I basically handled all of those roles as I had experience handling them while I was in school and the like. So that's more or less smoothened the way for me and built up the experience for me to get the capacity to quickly transition into program manager for Inspire. So generally, I think just like Johnny has mentioned, you should be able to be open to learning. For instance, I have a law background. I'm a lawyer by profession, but then I do a couple of things aside my core profession. So I was able to learn both event management, which of course covers the aspect of organizing this startup pitch, the programs for startups and all, communication, copywriting, email marketing, all of these things, communications, all of these things are things you have to handle when you are working closely with startups, helping them get investment ready and all of those things, pitch deck, and also one should be able to kind of lay low, right? You have your basic, you have your foundational certificate or whatever profession that you learned. Now you have to be open to learning more things to be able to fit in wherever you want to go to in the future, right? I think I can't quickly remember, but someone said that the illiterate of the 21st century will be those who won't be able to learn and unlearn. So one should be able to open their mind to learning new things. You were talking about the advent of GPT and generative AI. Are you able to learn that? How would it help in your workplace and all of those? So being open to learning is it's very key. Then being open to also looking for opportunities, right? In fact, everything is out there. If you want to break into any field, get the necessary skills, find a place to intern or volunteer maybe for a period of 3 months. Even before you leave school, while you are in school, you can do all those things. And by the time you are graduated, I actually got my first offer more like 2 months before I left school. Before my final exams in school, I got an offer for a job to work within the angel investment sector. So one has to even start planning while they are in school, right? So I think that's the general tip I would give. So if you are talking about job roles within the incubation space, there are a couple of job roles from communications officer who might be interested, who might be in charge of communications between the entrepreneurs and the hub, and then the social media manager or the digital marketer, the program manager directly in charge of the startups. Then there might be hub manager where the hub has facilities to rent out, maybe co-working space and the likes. Not all hubs have co-working spaces and the like. So roles like that. There is also research assistant, maybe in areas where the hub invests in startups and partnership deals for startups to get funding and a lot of that. So things like that. So I think that's basically it.
That's wonderful. And I can hear you well, Samuel. I mean, sorry, Pascal. So Samuel, it might be on your end if you want to try exiting and rejoining, and everyone will get a copy of this recording. Pascal, that's really helpful to get more insight into how you navigated your entry into impact incubation, and Johnny, to hear more, of course, from your side and what you're looking for at Growth Africa. I keep my career coach lens on, so I didn't give a great introduction on what I do at Nexford, but I support our learners and alumni with their career development and make sure that everyone has the tools and skills they need to pivot and promote in their career during their journey at Nexford and beyond. And what I see oftentimes our learners and alumni who have the best success are often people who have really good research skills and who are really aware of the world around them, and they're keeping their eyes and ears open to opportunities. And I think what I see at least is when you're able to articulate, these are things I'm curious about or I'm interested in. These are companies that I want to work for, or here are people, specific people I admire. Then you start to lean into that illusion effect, where then those opportunities start showing up more, whether it's in your social media feeds or in your interactions, your conversations with others. And so the next question that I have, and I'm not going to answer it, but I just want to highlight and see this is a pain point, I think, for a lot of people, is where do I actually turn? Like right now, me, Jeff, I want to go find a job with an impact incubator. Do I go to Pollinate Impact and look at the partner organizations? Can I go to Growth Africa and see parts of the member network? Practically speaking, what does it look like for someone to actually get into this field now that we've had an overview of the different types of roles and the soft and hard skills that are necessary? So Johnny, I'm sure you get this question all the time of people saying, please hire me at Growth Africa or guide me, mentor me. You can now share it with the masses, our mini masses. Where do you send people consistently to, well, maybe I'm not in Kenya, I'm in Malawi, or, I'm in a different country. Where do you send folks to find impact incubators?
I send them to our HR department and let them answer the question. No, but we have a page on our own website where we take unsolicited applications. So and we actually use that data quite systematically. So I'd say if you're interested in Growth Africa, certainly you are more than welcome to kind of submit your details on the unsolicitation or the unsolicited applications, and then obviously I do think we have a newsletter function on our website as well, through which you would be getting updates on new positions that might come up. And as I mentioned, in the next 2 or 3 months, we're launching quite a number of large programs, so we will be staffing up quite significantly. So certainly something everyone who's listening should take note of, and feel free to kind of visit our website every now and then. I'm not an expert on where to look for jobs in general. I only know how to get Growth Africa jobs. So
that's good. And I don't know, Ariel, too, if you might have input or insight on this they'd like to share.
I'll put a couple of links here in the chat. I think, unfortunately, very unfortunately, there is no centralized place, for job boards. I generally always advise people, it's not necessarily what you know, it's who you know. So I would really encourage people to build their social capital and build their networks in this space. So if you want to get a job at Incubation, and Growth Africa has operations in, I don't know how many countries across 6 countries across the continent, then you go to events and happy hours trying to stalk Johnny to, not stalk Johnny literally, but like to be able to build that relationship, to be able to build that network and that community with people. So my genuine advice would always be to reach out to people, but I'll put a few links in the chat here of job boards that I know. There are a couple of member network organizations like Andy, like Jin, like Skoll, that have sort of more impact oriented job boards for their members. So I'll put those in, they can be helpful. And then there are, as you're just starting your career, headhunters might be a little bit more difficult for you because they're usually looking for more seasoned professionals, but there are a few of those that I'm aware of, at least in East Africa, like Edge Performance and Shortlist, that are also really good, repositories. But I'm sorry to say, I don't think there's a central repository. If there's demand for that from folks like Johnny and Pascal, Pollinate Impact is happy to sort of start one to figure out how we can help, fill this gap and start building a more centralized opportunity. But yeah, not right now, but happy to share some links and some resources that at least I'm aware of.
That's great. And we'll put in the chat. I know so this is where it's interesting of specifically wanting to get careers in impact incubation. I love to PCDN has, I'll put this in the chat and we'll share in the follow-up, one of these, another aggregator of social impact job boards. But Pascal, what about you? I, see you, if I go to Abuja, I see you, what happens? People say, I want to have your job, or I want to have a job like yours. Where do you send friends for resources around the impact incubation space? Oh, you're muted, but it's gold. I'm sure it's great things that you're sharing.
Okay. So as Ariel mentioned, there's no like a central repository or job board for the impact space right now, right? But then there are some startup platforms that post jobs within the startup space and the likes. One should be able to find jobs within the impact space. For instance, I think we have FCS or something like that, fcss.com. They normally post contents and events within the startup space, any event or startup incubation hub and all of those things. They post it there. Then so some of the blogs within the tech space, they post a lot of content like that. Then LinkedIn too. If, for example, you are looking for a program manager job, you can set your LinkedIn job alert to program manager, blah, blah, blah. Then the LinkedIn alert does that for you. But then for now, there are no central spaces. But then for the list of platforms that post startup jobs, I should be able to curate some and maybe send to you so that you can share with the attendees. Yeah, that's about that. Thank you.
That's great. And we're collecting, oh, go ahead, Ariel, yes.
Sorry, I have one more very random recommendation that came to mind while Pascal was talking. Is the other opportunity, slightly less traditional, applying to jobs directly, is if you can find a fellowship program that could actually give you that exposure. I'm the beneficiary of one. I did one as sort of a mid-career professional when I kind of fell into the impact industry, and it really changed the trajectory. It's why I am where I am today, hands down. So if you can find resources and opportunities like that, that's another great opportunity that you might want to consider, like an attachment or a fellowship program to get you kind of getting the foot in the door. Sorry, Jennifer, I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, that's wonderful. And Hallelujah's out here. I know he's I can see Hallelujah virtual in my mind going like this with the startup idea. What I always encourage people to look for as well are what people call job fairies on LinkedIn. Maybe we need a different name for it, but and if you don't know who they are, you can ask. And what I mean by that is you'll have some people who round up different job opportunities. I do it, but mostly not necessarily focused in the impact incubation space. But if you can find that one person, you don't need to find 100 people who are, and actually we found a couple of them right here, right? Ariel, Johnny, Pascal, even following people, not even necessarily connecting with them on LinkedIn, you'll start to curate your LinkedIn feed to see opportunities that they share, whether it's at their organization, or you can rightfully assume they're also engaging with other people in this very specific field, so that when they comment or like on posts, that'll show up in your space, so you can continue to be sort of passively learning from them. So it's great. So it sounds like we've got a little bit of a gap in the market that we're looking to fill on identifying roles, but also, again, starting to build out, whether it's your spreadsheet or a job search tracker that you're using, of specific hubs that where you could potentially see yourself working. And then continuing to monitor their job boards. So I'd love to encourage folks to add questions to our Q&A so that we can make the most of our time together. And yes, absolutely. Craig Zelizer is a job fairy, and the work he does with PCDN is truly remarkable. So I've learned so much from Craig. He actually is a mentor with Nexford University, so and has been in the past and continues to support our work, which is really wonderful. So I'd love to see, let's see other questions. I'm wondering, we can ask if, as folks are thinking about questions for our panelists to put in the Q&A, and we are going to be saving these great resources. Ariel and others are sharing in the chat to share in the follow-up. Would love to know, Johnny and Pascal, what inspires you to go to work every day? And if you have a specific example of something that has inspired you recently, and or, what's your favorite part about working in this impact incubation space? So Johnny, let's start with you and then turn it over to Pascal. What gets you going every day?
Oh, that's a lot of things that gets me going. I think just the knowledge that that your effort is going to be multiplied through the entrepreneurs that you're helping. And I mean, we obviously have 20 plus years of evidence that this is something that matters. It's something that makes a difference. By conservative estimates, we've been a part of creating more than 30,000 jobs over the last 20 years, which by most accounts would be 30,000 people that wouldn't have a job today, right? So that makes me happy. And I don't think any amount of salary would actually create the same joy. It will create a different joy, but not necessarily the same joy. So I think pushing the envelope as well. I think the freedom, that's perhaps more just being an entrepreneur, and I think Ariel can also speak to that freedom you have of being in charge of your own thing, of being able to push the envelope in your industry. Trying to think of new things, challenge what is perhaps old knowledge with new ideas. I think that perhaps to be honest, our industry is very nascent. As much as it's been around for 25 years, it is still information in many ways. So also knowing that you're contributing to an industry that perhaps will consolidate in the next decade or two, and that you can be, and I think I jokingly mentioned that to Ariel a couple of months ago, the feeling of being one of the OGs in the industry, and just kind of knowing that you have that body of knowledge and experience after so many years that you can share with other people in the industry who still have a long career in impact incubation and impact acceleration and impact investing ahead of them. Being here, sharing my knowledge, that also gets me up. Quite frankly, it's wonderful to do and extremely satisfying.
That's wonderful. Thank you so much. Pascal, how about you? What gets you excited to do the work that you're doing?
So basically, I would say it's about the satisfaction of the startups we support, right? These startups are solving major problems that we face as a continent, as a country, right? We get startups from all across Africa solving different problems within their location. So our satisfaction is about we see these people coming with fresh ideas. At the end of their stay with us, they have a full-fledged product with actual customers that they are serving. So we believe that being able to support an entrepreneur effectively, and they bring out their product to the market that actually solve problems, we are indirectly supporting thousands of other persons we might not even know. We are impacting on a lot of people we might not even meet. So that's what inspires us. In my own little way, that's our own way of making the continent great and better, right? Through the startups that we support and we graduate and we continue supporting every single day. Thank you.
Wow, I love it. I really just love this opportunity to host webinars like this and learn from other people and hear perspectives that, again, are maybe patterns and threads that we hear in lots of different fields, but this need and desire for autonomy and also being a part of something bigger than yourself and wanting to contribute in whatever big and or small way that you can to make a difference, no matter what your industry, right? So we have some good questions coming in the Q&A. And thank you to Johnny and Pascal for those great answers about what inspires you in your work. Maybe, I'm sure it resonated with a lot of folks. If you have questions, you can add them to the Q&A so we have them in one spot. So someone here says, I have 8 years of experience in finance and feel like I'm plateauing in my career after having held a recent role as a CFO. I've been searching for impact roles and I'm happy that I joined the call today. We are too. The closest that they've come to impact work is in volunteering at an accelerator firm as a finance mentor for startups that get accepted in the fellowship. So it sounds like maybe being a mentor in a program like what Pascal's running, and being contracted as a finance systems trainer. Can someone share some advice here on how to make that transition from having been a CFO into the impact incubator space, and what maybe a specific job title would look like? Would it be being another CFO or another finance related role? Does anyone have any advice? Johnny, do you want us to kick us off, or what do you think?
I am happy to do that. We've had, and it's not an uncommon thing actually, mid-career investment professionals who kind of start questioning what's the purpose of life, right? I'm just making a lot of money for other people, and I'm not even seeing the impact on the entrepreneurs necessarily. It's the general partners that are kind of running away with the annual bonuses, right? And even if you're a part of that, that doesn't bring that satisfaction that I was talking about before, that we see. I again, maybe because of the nascent nature of our industry, I don't necessarily think there is one particular job title that one should go for. And also different organizations call it different things. So our kind of chief position is a growth catalyst. And we have a number of growth catalysts in our company, in our organization, and those are the ones that are entrepreneur facing. And I think anyone with an interest in entrepreneurship would find that a very interesting thing. So I'd say it's a coach come consultant. I wouldn't necessarily call it a consulting gig, because you're not consulting for the entrepreneur, but you're building their capacity and you're helping them grow their business at their merits. So it looks a little bit different than being a consultant. But I think that's perhaps something that would be interesting for mid-career consulting professionals, investment professionals, to come and do something like that. And if you're from one of the larger consulting firms or investment companies, you certainly have that structure that I talked about earlier on that is necessary and that really adds value to the entrepreneurs. However, you are probably used to a really good salary. And there is no such thing as a good salary in acceleration and incubation. Unfortunately, donors and grantors, they don't give out a lot of money for these things, and they certainly don't give out grants that will support $200,000 a year type salaries. So it may come with some kind of sacrifices in terms of what you may be used to as a career profession, especially if you're from Europe or North America. Even in Africa, we do see that people in the kind of the upper echelons of consulting industry and investment professionals, their salaries are much higher than anywhere else in other industries, including impact acceleration, impact incubation. So I keep that in mind as well. But don't look for anything particular. Have a conversation with the owners, with the principals, with the managers in that organization, and see where your skills can best be and your experience can best be used.
I love that. And so it sounds like there's this element, especially for people who are transitioning from different industries, of not necessarily job crafting, but being aware of how your job might be reflected differently in another space. So maybe you're used to seeing a certain title coming from the finance sector, and maybe, like Johnny said, that could be a growth analyst role, or in the impact space. What I, again, encourage so many people to do at Nexford and beyond is spend time looking at people's websites, looking at people's LinkedIn profiles to understand what were they doing before they became, how can I see other CFOs I admire, maybe what they've transitioned into. I loved when I saw Ariel, which is what brought us here today, when she posted about joining Pollinate Impact, that her role was chief convener. And I was like, wow, I've never heard of that job title before. How interesting. I want to know more. And I'm sure that that's not a title that many people have, but you can know what it means just by hearing it. So what is that for you in your industry or your space? And who are you? I think LinkedIn is the easiest place. They just passed 1 billion people last month. So there's someone out there that you can be learning from anywhere, in the world about their career path and how they've built it. Pascal well, John here with this next question, it says, I'm really passionate about starting an exportation business, exporting Nigerian products, like, for example, processed pounded flour, and they need support. So how do they go about it? Can they join you at Inspire or Growth Africa? Pascal, are you welcoming folks for your next cohort? And would this be one that would be eligible?
Okay, thank you very much. So we only support tech-enabled businesses, one. For those interested in the next cohort will be open by January. But if you're able to attend the demo day on Friday, I think Dr. Jennifer will share the link with you after this event. If you're able to join, we'll start sharing some information with you and some resources to help you to start preparing, because in as much as we streamline the criteria that we use to choose intending trainees, we still share resources with everybody. So once you join now, we share resources with you. For instance, you want to start exporting. Now, if there is a way you can make it a tech-enabled business, in the sense that maybe you are not exporting, but then you are creating a platform for other exporters across Africa to start using your platform to export and the like. I'm just giving an instance. I'm not telling you to change your business idea. So I'm giving an instance. So that's what we'll start sharing with you on the group once you join. So for now, we only focus on tech-enabled businesses.
That's great. I think too, whoever, let's see, asked the question, it's anonymous. If you know somebody else doing an exportation business or, insert space, and people are willing to share and aren't feeling proprietary about sharing the wealth of their information, it's always a good spot to start. I love this last question. And Johnny, I'm curious, you've talked about talent. It sounds like you and Ariel are having conversations about how to bring on more high quality talent. I'm sure I am biased, but I will say I hope a lot of them comes from our Nexford network, our Kenya. Are you only hiring in Kenya right now, Johnny?
No, actually, a lot of them are in Ghana. So we're essentially increasing our team from 2 to 10.
Wow.
And then we're increasing our team in Malawi as well.
Okay, I'll find them in Malawi.
Good.
And Ghana and Kenya. We're good. We've got you covered. But you've mentioned years of experience that you're bringing to this field, and you talked about how actually, even given the high unemployment that we see around the world, around the continent, that it still is really difficult to find the talent that you actually need to do this specific work that you're doing, which is very unique and requires skill sets that maybe people are not as familiar using, around being comfortable in innovation, new ideas. So I love this. Thank you to the participant who shared this question. How do you spot talent? What have you seen in the past where you've had success bringing together this experience and innovation? And maybe you don't have a formula, but do you see a thread and among different, even maybe countries, or what does that look like when you've hired Johnny?
I wish there was a trend, because that would also enable us to kind of target our recruitment efforts a little bit more than we can do today. So what we have ended up doing And what we rely quite heavily on is actually testing, right? So we try and create tests that kind of are simulating situations that they would find themselves in during their job, and try and test for that. Have them present how they go through their logic and how they kind of structure the analysis of the problem at hand, and how they go about and structuring the solution to that problem. That would give us some idea, but certainly that's not perfect. So what we also end up doing is overhiring, and then through kind of putting more structure in our what's called probation period. We kind of make sure that we see them in action over a 3 to 6 month period, and then let go, and unfortunately of the ones who doesn't quite cut it. It rarely comes to that, because I think a lot of people, they will find themselves in a situation where they can't quite deliver what they thought they could. Also because even coming up with specific enough job descriptions for a lot of the positions is a little bit hard at times. I think we've certainly become better at it over the years, but it's again because we're kind of making things up as we go to an extent. It's not like it's a position that's existed in the last 50 years. So because of that, it becomes a little bit difficult. I think the ones who tend to survive in an organization like Growth Africa, and I think similar organizations as well, are the ones who are kind of co-creating their role along the way, and who are honest with what they feel is working and what they feel is not working, and how that kind of relates back to the position that they're trying to do. So the ones who are kind of being proactive in kind of crafting on the go their own job description, they tend to have more longevity with us and with similar organizations.
And if I can just give a quick kind of add to that, Jennifer, I think what, if I had to give, and I know we're over time, but my advice, especially to the young professionals in the room, is my perspective is always that hard skills can be taught. I can teach you how to do an Excel. I can teach you how to do formulas. Oftentimes they're always looking for the softer things, like Johnny mentioned, the ones who are proactive, the ones who are problem solvers, the ones who will pave that way in face of ambiguity, because like Johnny said, we're figuring that out as we go, and that yesterday is not going to be the same as tomorrow. So really having that flexibility, having that openness, having that willingness to learn and grow, those softer things to me are the most valuable and the hardest to be taught, right? So I would just embrace that, and I think that's where a lot of good sort of folks come from. They might not have the exact skills, but they have the right attitude. They're willing to learn, they're willing to grow, and they're willing to be flexible.
That's great. I'll share this job description. It unfortunately it's a US remote role, but I really like sharing it because it has a wonderful example. This company, I like their job search tracker, but they share, of course, job requirements, nice to haves. Then they give you, what does success look like day one? What are you going to be doing day one, week one, into month 3? So then I love, Johnny, what you mentioned about managing expectations on the employer side, and then sort of seeing what sticks. But as a job seeker, if you don't get a job description like this, you can create one yourself and then, share it with an employer to say, here's what I'm imagining. Is that what you're imagining as well? So I think when you get into newer industries, impact incubation, not completely new, but maybe less established. One of the key, your top skills is going to have to be comfortable with ambiguity and leaning into it, but then also, again, like Johnny's saying, you're directing entrepreneurs and working with them and helping them focus. And so bringing that structure, and maybe that is even coming or illustrated in your job search process itself. We are over time, but it sounds like you know what, great, because we have 2 more of these sessions. So this is a 3-part series, and we will have, let me make sure I'm saying the right one, but we have our next session on December 14th, and we'll be focusing on, oh, I'm so sorry, I don't have it right in front of me. Ariel, do you have the
I think,
title?
yeah, it's careers and impact investing. So we talked about incubation and the support systems that are in place to support entrepreneurs. The sort of next step to that is how they get money. So the gentleman who also asked the question about transitioning from CFO, I would encourage you to join that one too, because you might pick up some good nuggets that and very, you know, relevant sort of transferable skills from the finance world to those who are actually dealing and giving out the money to these entrepreneurs. Not as much as we would like to see, but you know, well, hopefully we get more money going and flowing in this space soon. So that's the next one on December 14th.
That's great. Our webinar series will be a flywheel, and we're going to create our market. We're going to get more money. It's just gonna, who knows, all these things are going to happen, I'm sure. So thank you so much, Ariel, and my colleague Roshan put in the chat the link for the next session. We will include that in our follow-up email. If you have questions about Nexford, also you have contact information there. We will share Pollinate Impacts information, Growth Africa, Inspire Abuja Village, so that people can make sure to learn more. The demo day that's coming up for Pascal. I want to say on behalf of Nexford and myself, thank you to our guests who made the time to join and so generously share with all of us. Really was inspiring, and I'm already excited for our next session. And thank you to all of you who made the time to join, to either watch live or listen to the recording. We'll look forward to seeing you all for the next one. Take care.
Thanks all.
Hi,
Cheers.
thanks so much.
Bye.